Black CEO. Refused water on her own flight. 15 minutes later, she fired the entire crew. The request was simple. A whisper against the hum of a descending jet. "Mom, can I please have some water?" Row 12. A black teenage boy named Eli Blake pressed his palm to his stomach, pale and dizzy from turbulence. His mother, Dr. Amara Blake, raised a gentle hand to get the attendant's attention. The cabin lights dimmed to amber as the seatbelt sign glowed overhead. Linda Shaw, the lead flight attendant, turned with a practiced smile that did not reach her eyes. "We are preparing for landing. No more service," she said. "It is just a small glass of water," Dr. Blake replied softly. Linda's tone hardened. "Ma'am, do not make this difficult. Rules are rules." Silence stretched. You could feel it settle over the cabin, heavy and sterile. In business class, a woman in a dark blazer looked up from her tablet. Her name was Vanessa Rhys, the founder and chief executive officer of Aerion Systems, the company that designed the artificial intelligence quietly running this very aircraft. No one on board knew that the woman who wrote the algorithms for empathy and efficiency was sitting among them, anonymous, observing. Vanessa's smartwatch recorded the exchange. Heart rates, audio spikes, emotional variants, all streaming into a data cloud she created. She had built technology to make service more human. And yet, here, humanity was missing. Eli whispered, "I feel sick." Linda crossed her arms. "Sit down or I will call security on arrival." A few passengers looked away, pretending not to hear. Others frowned, restless. The boy's shoulders curled inward. His mother reached for his hand. From her seat, Vanessa's gaze steadied. Her pulse slowed. Every cruel syllable landed like static inside her mind. She had seen this pattern before, authority mistaking empathy for weakness. She tapped the screen on her watch. The voice log shimmered to life. "Empathy violation detected. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we are glad you are here." Now back to Vanessa. The jet began its final descent toward New York. The engines droned, deep and constant. The air was thick with judgment. Linda pressed her intercom. "Cabin control, we have a non-compliant passenger in row 12, requesting security on arrival." Dr. Blake's voice broke the hush. "My son did nothing wrong. He asked for water," Linda snapped. "Then maybe he should learn to follow instructions." The mother froze. The boy looked down. And somewhere behind them, Vanessa Rhys, calm, composed, unshaken, slowly powered off her tablet. If cruelty had a language, she had just heard it fluently spoken. If justice had a face, it was about to look back. The cabin lights flickered once as the landing gear locked. The world tilted, steadying into silence. And at 30,000 feet, something far greater than gravity was about to come down. The wheels hit the runway with a low thunder. Seatbelts clicked. The city lights of New York stretched across the window like veins of gold. The plane slowed, but the tension did not. Linda Shaw stood tall in the aisle, lips tight, voice sharp through the intercom. "Passengers, remain seated until we come to a complete stop. Security will meet us at the gate." Dr. Amara Blake froze. Her son, Eli, looked pale and frightened. The few passengers who had dared to whisper now avoided her eyes. Everyone felt the chill of authority. From the business cabin, Vanessa Rhys placed her phone on her lap and exhaled slowly. Power is not volume. Power is direction. She rose from her seat, calm as a storm building beneath glass. "Excuse me," she said softly. The sound alone cut through the air like a switch. Linda turned, surprised. "Ma'am, please sit down. We have a situation," Linda said. "Yes," Vanessa replied. "I believe we do." Two airport police officers stepped through the cabin door. Their badges glinted under the overhead lights. The passengers stirred, restless. Linda gestured toward row 12. "Those two. They refused to comply." Eli's breath came in shallow bursts. Dr. Blake whispered, "It is going to be all right." But before the officers could move, Vanessa's voice filled the space, steady, low, undeniable. "That will not be necessary, officers." Heads turned. Phones lifted quietly, recording. The engines hummed, waiting. Vanessa stepped forward, her shoes soundless on the carpeted aisle. She reached into her blazer and drew out a small black ID card edged in silver. "My name is Vanessa Rhys," she said, "founder and chief executive officer of Aerion Systems, the company whose technology is running this aircraft. Silence. Then a slow murmur of disbelief. Linda blinked, her confidence faltering. You work for Aerion? I built it, Vanessa said. Every safety system, every empathy algorithm, every digital eye watching over your service. I designed it to make air travel humane. And tonight, it failed because someone forgot what humanity means. The officers exchanged looks, then quietly stepped back. Dr. Blake stood, voice trembling. You are her? The woman behind Aerion? Vanessa nodded once. And I am deeply sorry for what you endured. She turned to Linda. Miss Shaw, you cited regulations. You threatened a mother and a child over a glass of water. That is not enforcement. That is ego. Linda swallowed hard. I was following protocol. Vanessa held her gaze. Protocol does not strip away compassion. You turned rules into weapons. That is not leadership, it is negligence. Her smartwatch beeped softly. A blue light pulsed across its face. System recording complete, it said. Vanessa looked around the cabin. For the record, this is an official company aircraft. Effective immediately, this crew is suspended pending termination. Security will escort them out upon arrival. Gasps filled the air. One passenger began to clap, hesitant at first, then louder. Eli's shoulders eased for the first time. His mother's eyes glistened with quiet relief. Vanessa turned back to them. You will receive a full refund and lifetime premium status on every Aerion-affiliated flight. Tonight, I will make sure this never happens again. The boy nodded, speechless. The plane taxied to the gate. Outside, the night rain tapped softly against the windows. Vanessa glanced once more at Linda, whose face had gone colorless. Remember this moment, Vanessa said gently. Technology evolves, so must we. As the door opened and the officers stepped aside, the cabin filled with the sound of rain and applause, and for the first time that night, justice felt as clear as water. The applause faded as passengers filed out into the terminal, the smell of jet fuel mixed with rain. Dr. Amara Blake guided her son toward the exit, her hand resting protectively on his shoulder. She looked back once, her eyes meeting Vanessa's. It was not a look of pity or gratitude. It was recognition. One woman who had survived disrespect meeting another who had learned to dismantle it. Vanessa stayed behind in the cabin, motionless. The other attendants stood in silence, their uniforms neat but their composure shattered. Linda Shaw held her ID badge tightly, as if squeezing it could undo what had been done. Miss Rhys, she said, voice cracking, I have worked for 20 years. I did not mean to... Vanessa turned slightly. You meant every word. You just did not expect consequences. Linda tried again. Please, I can explain. There is nothing to explain, Vanessa said quietly. You enforced your comfort and called it policy. The hum of the engine softened into silence. A ground crew member appeared at the doorway. Vanessa nodded. Please escort this crew to the operations office. Human resources will take it from here. As they left, she felt no triumph, no vengeance. Justice, when done correctly, is not loud. It simply resets the balance. She gathered her bag, her watch still blinking with the soft blue of the recorded data. Each moment of the confrontation had been logged, every word transcribed. It was more than evidence. It was a mirror of how empathy could collapse under ego. Outside the terminal, black sedans waited in a neat line. Vanessa stepped into one. Her driver glanced back through the mirror. Rough flight, Miss Rhys? She met his eyes in the reflection. Not rough, she said. Revealing. Rain streaked across the glass as the car pulled away from the terminal. Billboards flashed past, one of them showing an advertisement for Aerion Systems, her own face smiling under the tagline, Engineering, Human Understanding. The irony was sharp enough to taste. Her assistant's voice came through the earpiece. Vanessa, the media picked up chatter about an incident on an Aerion flight. Do you want me to respond? Not yet, she said. Truth spreads faster than a statement. She leaned back, watching the rain slide down the window. Outside, the city pulsed with lights. Inside, her thoughts returned to Eli Blake. 17, polite, brilliant, punished for asking for water. She opened her tablet and pulled up a new project file. Aura Ethics Module 2. The first line she typed read, Teach empathy by example, not automation. Hours later, in her Manhattan office, she stood before a wall of screens showing live data from hundreds of flights. Each tiny blue dot represented human behavior translated into numbers, smiles, requests, tone, response times. But behind every number was a person. That had been the point from the beginning. Vanessa spoke softly to the system. Run playback of Flight Aura 927. The speakers filled with voices, the boy, the mother, Linda's cold tone, and then her own words cutting through the noise. She let it play once, then again, until the sound became a kind of prayer. She did not need to post about it. She did not need to defend herself. Power had already spoken, and the world would listen soon enough. As dawn approached, she poured a glass of water and set it on her desk. The surface rippled under the faint vibration of the city. Empathy, she whispered, is the only system worth updating. And somewhere in the quiet hum of the office, the servers seemed to agree. The next morning began with silence that felt earned. The city had not yet woken. Sunlight crept through the glass walls of Aerion Systems headquarters, painting long lines across the floor. Vanessa Rhys stood in that light, a cup of black coffee cooling in her hand. Her reflection in the window looked calm, but the weight behind her eyes told another story. The internal report from the night before waited on her desk, printed in crisp black letters. Incident. Flight Aura 927. She skimmed the first page. Timestamps. Statements. Confirmation of suspension. Every word clinical. Every word proof that empathy could not be automated if the people behind it refused to feel. Her phone buzzed. The board wanted an emergency call. Public relations wanted to issue a statement. Legal wanted to confirm that she had authority to terminate a full crew without prior review. She smiled faintly. In the world of business, justice always came with paperwork. She answered the call on speaker. A dozen voices filled the office. Vanessa, the story is trending, one executive said. Passengers filmed the entire thing. Good, she replied. Good? Another voice protested. Do you realize the optics? Our CEO firing a crew in public? Vanessa cut him off gently. Optics are what we see when we refuse to look deeper. The world will see what actually happened. The line went quiet. For a moment, only the low hum of the servers filled the room. I built Aerion to make air travel intelligent, she continued. Last night proved that intelligence without compassion is just code pretending to care. We will not pretend. One of the directors sighed. So, what do you suggest? Vanessa looked at the glass of water still sitting on her desk, untouched since dawn. We retrain every employee, from pilot to gate agent. Not with slides or scripts. With truth. Truth? Yes, she said. Play them the recording. Let them hear what cruelty sounds like at 30,000 feet. There was a long pause. Then someone whispered, That will change everything. That is the point, she answered. When the call ended, Vanessa walked to the conference room. Her assistant, Maya, was waiting with a tablet. Press is outside, Maya said quietly. Do you want to address them? Vanessa shook her head. No, let the video speak first. In the corridor, employees stood watching her pass. Some smiled with pride, others avoided her eyes. Power makes people see themselves more clearly, and not everyone likes what they see. At noon, Aerion released the flight footage. The world watched a boy politely ask for water, and a woman of authority turn him into a threat. Millions of views in hours. Hashtags flooded every platform. Number empathy matters, number water and respect, number Vanessa Rhys. Commentators debated ethics. Airlines issued statements about retraining initiatives. But the people did not talk about policy. They talked about the feeling, the shift when the quiet woman stood and said, That will not be necessary, officers. That evening, Vanessa left the office through the underground garage. Reporters waited outside, lights flashing, questions flying. She kept walking, head high, no anger, no pride, only purpose. A journalist shouted, Miss Rhys, do you regret firing them? Vanessa stopped for a heartbeat, then said, No, I regret that it was necessary. Oh. The doors closed behind her, muffling the noise. In the back seat of her car, she opened her tablet once more. A new message blinked on the screen. Incoming call from Eli Blake. She hesitated, then answered. Miss Rhys? Eli's voice was steady now. Thank you for what you did. I got accepted into the MIT program. Vanessa smiled softly. Congratulations, Eli. Build something that helps people feel seen. I will, he said. As the line disconnected, She looked again at the glass of water beside her seat. The surface trembled with the rhythm of the road. Justice, she thought, does not echo. It ripples. Weeks passed. The story refused to fade. News outlets replayed the video daily. Commentators argued on morning shows about leadership, race, and empathy. Every time Vanessa Rhys's calm voice echoed through the clip, "That will not be necessary, officers," millions of viewers replayed it like a lesson. Inside Aerion Systems, the shift was real. Employees now began meetings in silence, aware of the new training modules streaming across their screens. Every session started with one phrase in bold white letters: "Technology cannot replace what we refuse to feel." Vanessa watched the transformation quietly. She did not need applause. She wanted results. The company's customer satisfaction rose, not because of better software, but because people had finally learned that service begins with respect. But outside the company, the backlash simmered. Industry leaders whispered that Vanessa's actions set a dangerous precedent. "You cannot run a business on emotion," one rival CEO said during a televised panel. Vanessa watched from her office, a faint smile curving her lips. Emotion? She thought. No, this is not emotion. This is accountability. That night, she attended a private forum of executives and investors. The room was sleek, full of polished glass and controlled voices. A man approached her with a drink in hand. "Miss Rhys," he said, "impressive show of power, but maybe next time handle these things quietly. Public sympathy fades faster than profits." Vanessa set down her glass untouched. "Maybe profits fade faster than integrity," she said. His smile faltered. Around them, conversations slowed. She walked away without another word. The room never regained its rhythm. Later, in the solitude of her apartment, she reviewed a new proposal. Her assistant, Maya, had compiled letters from passengers, messages from strangers who had watched the video and felt something shift. One said, "I used to think following rules made me right. Now I listen first." Another read, "My daughter saw you stand up. She said she wants to build things that make people kinder." Vanessa's eyes paused on that last line. Make people kinder. That was the goal all along. Not to punish, but to remind. The clock neared midnight. She poured another glass of water, the ritual now grounding her. The liquid caught the city lights like tiny constellations. She thought of Eli Blake, now preparing to leave for MIT, carrying not just ambition but awareness. Her watch vibrated softly. A message from Aerion's analytics division appeared. Public trust index at 97%. Engagement sustained, she whispered. Not engagement. Enlightenment. A sudden memory surfaced, the voice of Linda Shaw pleading, the panic in her eyes as truth unraveled. Vanessa had not heard from her since. She hoped Linda found a different kind of work, maybe something quieter, something that taught her to listen. Justice, Vanessa knew, was not the end of a story. It was the start of another one. The following morning, Vanessa arrived early at headquarters. The staff greeted her with cautious admiration. She walked to the main atrium where a new installation gleamed under the skylight. A clear fountain shaped like a single drop of water suspended midair. At its base, a plaque read, "Empathy, the only system that never crashes." Maya joined her. "The media wants to know what the fountain means," she said. Vanessa looked at the cascading water. "It means we learned something." Maya nodded. "Will you ever tell them what really happened that night?" Vanessa turned toward the light spilling through the glass ceiling. "They already know," she said. "They felt it." Outside, the city moved forward. No headlines, no applause. Only the quiet echo of a woman who understood that power does not shout. It listens. And somewhere in the endless hum of progress, a single drop of water kept falling, over and over, reminding everyone that empathy still flows. 2 months later, the noise had settled. The headlines had moved on to new scandals, new heroes, new distractions. But the echo of that flight still lingered in quiet places, offices, classrooms, and living rooms where people whispered about what had changed. Vanessa Rhys no longer needed to defend what she had done. The decision had rewritten company policy across an entire industry. Other airlines adopted empathy metrics, and Aerion Systems began licensing its human factor module to competitors who once called her reckless. Progress was measured not in applause but in imitation. On a calm Friday afternoon, Vanessa sat in her corner office overlooking the Hudson River. The horizon shimmered with winter light. A new report glowed on her tablet. Eli Blake, MIT Ethics in Artificial Intelligence Scholarship recipient. She smiled softly. The boy who had once been denied a glass of water now studied how to make machines understand kindness. That symmetry mattered more to her than any award. Maya entered with a folder. "We finalized the partnership with the National Flight Academy," she said. "They want you to keynote next month." Vanessa closed the tablet. "About empathy again?" "Yes," Maya said, hesitating. "But they also want you to discuss what leadership means after public scrutiny." Vanessa considered that. Leadership is not about surviving scrutiny, it is about deserving it. Maya grinned. "That is a quote. Then make sure they hear it," Vanessa said. Later that evening, as the office emptied, Vanessa walked through the atrium. The fountain still flowed steady, silent, silver under the low lights. A janitor paused his work as she passed. "Miss Rhys," he said, "I just wanted to say, that fountain makes this place feel different. People stop here before meetings. It calms them." She nodded. That is what water is supposed to do. Outside, the city breathed in rhythm with the river. The air was cold, but forgiving. Vanessa walked to the edge of the plaza where a small group of journalists waited, more respectful now. "Miss Rhys, do you think people have truly changed?" one asked. She met his gaze without flinching. "Change is not a destination. It is maintenance." He looked puzzled. She continued, "You do not arrive at empathy. You keep it running, like an engine. Ignore it, and it stalls." Her car arrived. She gave a polite nod and stepped inside. The driver turned down the radio. "Long day, Miss Rhys?" "Long but good," she said. "We are getting somewhere." The car glided through Manhattan traffic. Billboards showed Aerion's new campaign, Empathy Engineered. The image was simple, a drop of water falling into metal, rippling outward. No slogans about innovation, just the reminder that technology is only as humane as the hands that build it. At a red light, Vanessa looked out at the people crossing the street, different faces, different languages, all moving with their own urgency. None of them knew her story, but many lived parts of it every day. Disrespect, disguised as rules, judgment masked as professionalism. She whispered to herself, "One act of empathy can outlive 1,000 rules." Her phone buzzed again. A message from Eli appeared. "Leaving for Boston tonight. Thank you for showing me what real leadership looks like." Vanessa replied. "Lead with compassion. Everything else will follow." As the car merged onto the highway, the city lights faded behind her. She leaned back, closed her eyes, and listened to the steady rhythm of rain against the window. Each drop sounded like a reminder, soft, consistent, alive. Empathy was not a concept. It was a practice, and Vanessa Rhys was still practicing. Winter gave way to spring. The city thawed. Snow turned to rain, and the river outside Aerion Systems flowed faster, as if time itself wanted to keep up with Vanessa Rhys. Her days were quieter now, but her influence was everywhere, articles quoting her words, panels discussing her philosophy, and executives repeating her phrases as if they were gospel. Yet Vanessa never mistook admiration for progress. She knew change without humility was only a performance. On a Tuesday morning, she arrived early to review a new beta version of the empathy module. The system projected patterns of tone recognition, voice modulation, and sentiment response. A virtual assistant's voice filled the room. Emotion calibration complete. Average compassion index, 90, 2%. Vanessa frowned. 92 is not enough, she said. The lead engineer, a young woman named Dara, shifted nervously. "Ma'am, the system learns from user behavior. It mirrors what people show it." "That is the problem," Vanessa said. "If we train empathy by imitation, we only teach bias." Dara nodded slowly. "Then what should we teach it?" "Grace," Vanessa replied. "The kind that exists when no one is watching." For a moment, the hum of the computers filled the silence. Then Vanessa's phone rang. The caller ID read Human Resources Department. She answered, "Yes?" "Miss Rhys," the director said carefully. "Linda Shaw requested a meeting." Ember. Vanessa's hand stilled. The name felt like a ghost brushing the edge of her calm. "What does she want?" "She completed mandatory counseling and empathy retraining. She says she wishes to apologize in person." Vanessa's gaze moved to the window. The river glimmered under sunlight, unpredictable but steady. "Schedule it," she said. That afternoon, Linda Shaw entered the Aerion lobby. Gone was the uniform. The perfect posture. She looked smaller, stripped of the certainty that once shielded her. The security officer guided her to the conference room where Vanessa waited. "Miss Rhys," Linda began, voice trembling, "I came to say that I was wrong. I was angry that day, and I let power make me cruel." Vanessa studied her, not with judgment, but with silence. "Do you understand what you took from that boy?" Linda nodded. "His dignity, and mine." The answer landed like truth. Simple, bare. "I have spent months serving in a care facility," Linda continued, "helping elderly patients, listening, cleaning, learning what patience feels like. I realized that service is not obedience, it is awareness." Vanessa leaned back. "Why tell me this?" "Because you reminded me that consequences can save people too," Linda said. "You saved me from myself." For the first time, Vanessa smiled, not wide, but real. "That was never the goal. But I'm glad it happened." Linda's eyes watered. "If there is ever a way I can make amends, I will." Vanessa nodded toward the exit. "There already is. Keep doing the work." When Linda left, the room was still. Vanessa exhaled slowly. Redemption, she thought, was not a gift. It was a choice. As dusk fell, she walked to the atrium fountain. The water shimmered gold under the setting Sunday, a reflection of two women, one who had fallen, and one who had refused to stay silent, merged briefly in the glass. Vanessa whispered to herself, "Empathy restores what punishment cannot." The water rippled once, as if it understood. Weeks later, the rhythm of Aerion Systems returned to its quiet pulse. The crisis was history, but its lesson remained in the company's DNA. Employees spoke differently now. Meetings began with listening instead of talking. Every project proposal carried a new section called Human Impact. It was not a formality, it was a reflection. Vanessa Rhys moved through these hallways with her usual calm, but something within her had shifted too. Power, she had learned, was not a crown. It was a mirror that revealed what kind of person you were when no one could challenge you. She wanted to build systems that would hold that mirror up to everyone, not just herself. One evening, as the office emptied and the sky turned amber, her assistant Maya entered with a message. "You might want to see this," she said. She placed a tablet on the desk. On the screen was a news article. Former flight attendant Linda Shaw joins Empathy Outreach Foundation. Vanessa read the headline twice. Below it was a photo of Linda helping children in a hospital ward, reading stories and serving meals. The article quoted her, "I used to think leadership meant control. Now I know it means care." Vanessa looked up. "She is learning," she said quietly. "She is trying," Maya replied. "That counts." Vanessa nodded. "It always does." That night, Vanessa attended a small panel at Columbia University. The topic was Artificial Intelligence and Moral Responsibility. The audience was full of students, journalists, and industry leaders. When her turn came to speak, she did not talk about algorithms or profits. She told them a story. "There was once a boy on a plane," she began. "He asked for water. He was told no. He was told to sit down and obey, and the world watched. The room went still. Every eye was fixed on her. That moment was not about a rule being broken. It was about a rule being followed without compassion. When we teach machines, we teach them to follow rules. But what happens when we forget to teach ourselves why the rules exist?" She paused, letting the silence breathe. "The answer," she said, "is that machines become more human than we are. And that is the true danger." The applause was not loud. It was slow, deliberate, thoughtful. Afterward, a student approached her, notebook in hand. "Miss Rhys," he said, "do you really believe empathy can be programmed?" Vanessa smiled. "No, but I believe it can be practiced until it feels natural. That is close enough." On her way out, she passed a hallway lined with photographs of innovators and leaders. One empty frame waited at the end of the row, reserved for the next generation. She stopped for a moment and imagined Eli's face there one day. Outside, the night air carried the faint sound of rain. It always seemed to follow her now, like a reminder. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "May we never run dry." As she walked toward her car, a man in a maintenance uniform held the door open for her. "Evening, Miss Rhys," he said. "Good evening," she replied. "How was your day?" He smiled. "Better now that someone asked." Vanessa returned the smile. "That is how empathy begins," she said. He nodded, and for a moment, the world felt simple again, just two people exchanging kindness without effort or reason. The car pulled away from the curb. Raindrops gathered on the window, each one catching the city's reflection like fragments of light. Somewhere between their rhythm and her heartbeat, Vanessa felt peace. Empathy had begun as her mission. Now it was her language. And the world, at last, was learning how to speak it back. A year had passed since the flight that changed everything. The video had long vanished from trending lists, but the story lived quietly in the culture, a reminder, a reference, a parable. Aerion Systems had grown larger, its technology embedded in airports across the country. Yet for Vanessa Rhys, growth meant responsibility, not victory. On a bright morning in early spring, she arrived at a new Aerion training center in Atlanta. The building was sleek but warm, filled with open spaces and sunlight. In the atrium, a large inscription greeted every visitor. Empathy is not emotion, it is awareness. Employees lined up to greet her. Among them were flight attendants, engineers, and service managers from different airlines who had come for certification under Aerion's empathy curriculum. Vanessa moved through the group with quiet grace, shaking hands, exchanging smiles. There was no speech planned. She preferred moments that felt human, not staged. During the orientation, she stood before a class of new trainees. "You are not here to learn customer service," she said. "You are here to learn how to see people again. Rules are meant to protect safety, not to excuse cruelty. Machines will handle compliance. You must handle compassion." The room was silent, but the stillness felt alive. Each person seemed to understand that this was not a lesson in business. It was a reminder of conscience. After the session, Vanessa stepped outside to the courtyard where a fountain mirrored the sky. A familiar voice called her name. She turned and saw Dr. Amara Blake and her son Eli, now taller, older, more confident. "Miss Rhys," Amara said, smiling, "we heard about your visit and hope to see you." Vanessa's eyes softened. "How have you both been?" "Better," Amara said. "Eli just completed his first year at MIT. He is studying computer ethics." Eli grinned shyly. "I am building a project on emotional response prediction. Your papers helped me start." Vanessa laughed gently. "You did the work. I just gave the world a push." They walked by the fountain together. "Do you ever regret that day?" Amara asked. Vanessa looked at the rippling water. "Regret is for things that should have stayed hidden. That day needed to be seen." Eli nodded. "It changed how I see everything, not just technology, but people." "Then it was worth it," Vanessa said. They sat for a while, talking about classes, cities, and the strange way the world teaches empathy through conflict. Before leaving, Eli said, "You know, I used to think strength meant staying quiet, but watching you, I learned strength can also mean standing up, even if your voice shakes." Vanessa smiled. "Then you learned faster than most adults." As they parted, she watched them go mother and son, walking into a future that finally looked fairer. Later that evening, Vanessa reviewed an internal report from Aerion's analytics division. It showed a drop in passenger complaints and a rise in recognition for kindness among staff. She read the data carefully, then whispered, "It is working." Outside her window, the sun dipped behind the skyline. The city glowed in copper and gold. Vanessa turned off the screen and reached for her glass of water. The reflection on its surface shimmered, bending the light into small halos. Every story begins somewhere, she thought. But justice, real justice, begins when someone decides that silence is not enough. She lifted the glass and took a slow sip. The taste was clean, simple, honest. Empathy, she thought, was not a revolution. It was maintenance of the human soul. And tonight, the system was still running perfectly. Another spring passed. The memory of that flight had settled into history, but history has a way of breathing when least expected. Aerion Systems was preparing for its 10th anniversary, and journalists were once again requesting interviews with Vanessa Rhys. Every headline reached for the same angle, the woman who changed the skies. She read the drafts with polite detachment. Titles were temporary, values were not. That morning, Vanessa stood in her office overlooking the river. The water shimmered with sunlight, calm yet restless. Maya entered with a smile and a folder. "We finalized the keynote draft for the anniversary event," she said. "Do you want to review it before rehearsal?" Vanessa shook her head. "No script," she said. "I will speak from memory." Maya hesitated. "You mean from the flight?" "Yes," Vanessa replied. "That moment still speaks louder than anything I could write." Later that evening, hundreds gathered in Aerion's main auditorium. Employees filled the seats. Industry leaders, students, and even government officials attended. The stage was simple: a black podium, a single spotlight, and behind it, a massive projection of Aerion's logo slowly transforming into the shape of a water droplet. Vanessa walked on stage without music or fanfare. The room hushed instantly. 10 years ago, she began, I founded Aerion to design intelligence that could serve with humanity. We built algorithms, systems, and networks. But along the way, I discovered something unexpected. Progress means nothing if we forget the people it is meant to protect. She paused, scanning the crowd. One flight reminded me of that. One boy, one request, one refusal. Whispers rippled through the audience. Everyone knew the story, but hearing it from her brought it back to life. Empathy, she continued, is not a program you upload or a feature you toggle. It is a choice you make when no one is watching. And sometimes, that choice is the only thing standing between dignity and cruelty. The room was silent, the kind of silence that feels sacred. She stepped closer to the microphone. When that boy asked for water, he did not ask for pity. He asked for recognition. And recognition is the foundation of respect. Machines can track tone, volume, and sentiment, but they will never understand the courage it takes to stay kind when the world does not return it. Her voice softened. So, when you leave here tonight, remember this. Every screen you touch, every command you give, every system you build, make sure it remembers the human it serves. Otherwise, all this brilliance becomes noise. Applause rose slowly, then all at once. It filled the room like a wave, rolling forward until it felt less like praise and more like agreement. After the event, as the crowd dispersed, Vanessa stepped backstage. Maya handed her a small glass of water. For tradition, she said. Vanessa smiled. For clarity, she corrected. She took a slow sip. The taste reminded her of everything: Eli's quiet bravery, Amara's steady grace, Linda's redemption, and the ripple that had grown into a movement. Later that night, alone in her office, she placed the empty glass on her desk beside the words engraved into the metal plaque. Empathy, the only system that never crashes. She looked out at the city lights, soft and endless, and whispered to herself, justice does not disappear. It evolves. The night breeze moved through the open window, carrying the faint scent of rain. Somewhere below, the river flowed steady and sure, like time honoring a promise. And above it all, the woman who once stayed silent on a flight now spoke through 1,000 systems built to listen. The 10th anniversary event became more than a celebration. It became a signal. Within weeks, Aerion Systems received invitations from global organizations asking Vanessa Rhys to advise on ethical innovation. Her voice carried beyond aviation now into education, healthcare, and artificial intelligence policy. Every room she entered seemed to pause a little longer, listen a little deeper. But even in success, Vanessa never let the world define her by a single moment. That flight was not her legacy. It was only the proof of it. One morning, as spring sunlight spilled through her office windows, Maya entered with a letter. It is not digital, she said, placing an envelope on the desk. It came through the mail. Vanessa smiled at the novelty. She opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten note on plain stationery. Dear Miss Rhys, you do not know me, but my name is Evelyn Hart. I was a passenger on Flight Aura 927. I was the woman who said nothing while that boy was refused water. I watched. I stayed quiet. And that silence has haunted me for years. After that flight, I made changes. I began volunteering at shelters and teaching workshops on bystander responsibility. I want you to know that what you did that night did not just save that boy's dignity, it woke mine. Thank you for reminding me that neutrality in the face of cruelty is its own kind of violence. Signed, Evelyn Hart. Vanessa read the letter twice, then set it down beside her glass of water. The reflection of her own face shimmered across the surface. Silence, once her weapon, now felt like completion. She turned to Maya. Do you know what I love about letters? What is that? Maya asked. They arrive late, Vanessa said. But they always arrive. That evening, she met with Eli Blake over video call. His dorm room background was cluttered with open notebooks and circuit parts. He looked older now, more certain. I saw the keynote, Eli said. You sounded different, softer. Vanessa smiled. Maybe because I finally stopped fighting the noise and started listening to it. Eli nodded. I think I understand. I have been working on a prototype for a new empathy sensor, something that measures silence instead of sound. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. Silence? Yes. The pauses in a conversation. I think empathy lives there. Her expression warmed. Then you are building something truly human. He laughed lightly. You inspired that idea. Then build it better than I would, she said. That is how progress survives. When the call ended, Vanessa walked to the large window facing the river. The skyline shimmered like memory bright, unreachable, but always near. In the distance, aircraft lights moved across the horizon, each one guided by systems she had created. Somewhere on one of those flights, a mother might be comforting her child. A flight attendant might be offering water with genuine kindness. No one would know the reason those gestures mattered so much. They would just feel right. Vanessa whispered, "That is how change hides in the ordinary." She returned to her desk and picked up the letter once more. The ink had smudged slightly under her fingers, but the words remained clear. Neutrality in the face of cruelty is its own kind of violence. For a moment, she closed her eyes and allowed herself to breathe, deeply and without restraint. Outside, the night deepened. Inside, her reflection merged with the soft ripple of the water in her glass. It no longer looked like an ending. It looked like continuity. Empathy had begun as an act of defiance. Now it was simply who she was. Summer arrived quietly. The days stretched long, and the city seemed to breathe slower. Aerion Systems prepared to launch its most ambitious project, yet Human Factor 2, a system designed to measure empathy in real time through tone, timing, and human interaction. The announcement would be global, streamed across continents. But for Vanessa Rhys, it was not about spectacle. It was about closure. She arrived early at the launch venue, a minimalist auditorium lined with glass and light. The air buzzed with quiet anticipation. Engineers and designers moved through the space, whispering checks into their headsets. Maya handed her a small envelope. "A message from the first scholarship recipient," she said. Vanessa opened it. Inside was a photograph of Eli standing beside a laboratory sign that read, "Empathy Dynamics Research Team." The note beneath it was short. "We are building it. Thank you for showing us the way." She smiled and tucked it into her notebook. When the event began, the lights dimmed. The Aerion logo appeared behind her, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Vanessa stepped onto the stage. There was no script, only truth. "When we first created Aerion Systems," she said, "we thought we were designing artificial intelligence. But what we were really building was reflection technology that shows us who we are when we believe no one is watching." The audience listened, still and intent. This new system, Human Factor 2, will not replace empathy. It will remind us of it. Because machines can learn patterns, but only humans can choose compassion. She paused, her eyes scanning the room. The future does not belong to those who invent the smartest code. It belongs to those who remember why we needed code in the first place to connect. A slow wave of applause rose from the crowd. The screen behind her shifted from the Aerion logo to a single image, a droplet of water falling into a still surface, sending ripples outward. Vanessa looked up at it and said softly, "One request for water once revealed everything wrong with us. Today, it reminds us what is right." Oh. After the presentation, she returned to her office overlooking the river. The sky outside burned gold with the last light of day. On her desk, the same glass of water sat beside her tablet. She lifted it and took a small sip, savoring the quiet. Maya entered. "It is done," she said. "Human Factor 2 is live. The system is already analyzing live service interactions across hundreds of flights." Vanessa nodded. "Good. Let it listen." Maya smiled. "You know, it started with one act of courage." Vanessa looked toward the window where planes crossed the horizon, their lights like moving stars. "No," she said. "It started with one act of cruelty. Courage was just the correction." Maya lingered, then left. The office fell silent again. The city outside pulsed in rhythm with the hum of Aerion's servers. Somewhere in that endless web of data, empathy was being measured not by numbers, but by moments. Vanessa stood by the window and whispered, "Empathy, the only system that never crashes." The lights dimmed. The water in her glass caught the glow of the skyline, scattering it into hundreds of tiny reflections, each one a reminder, each one a continuation. Far below, the river flowed steady, carrying with it the memory of every story ever told, every wrong ever righted, and every ripple that began with a single drop. And as the night settled over the city, Vanessa Rhys smiled not because the work was done, but because it would never be. Empathy, after all, was not a destination. It was the journey that kept humanity alive.